This lecture is entitled Succeeding in an Online Class. And I must start off doing something that perhaps is a little odd, but I have to stress that this is a real class. I'm not sure why this happens, but sometimes people, you take the word online and either they think it just means virtual, which somehow means it's unreal, how it doesn't exist. But an online class is a real class in which people are expected to really learn, and really learning takes time, right? Really learning takes time. So if you want to succeed in an online class, the first thing you need to do is to devote adequate time in an efficient way in order to learn the material to do well. Online courses are often very popular, and the reason for this, I think, is chiefly their flexibility. You are able, to a large degree, to decide when you actually do the work for the class. A regular class would often meet, say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. But if you're someone who wants to work during the day, that is a little bit tricky. So the flexibility is often helpful, it's very attractive. However, it can also be dangerous, right? That flexibility can also be dangerous. If you have a class that is assigned to meet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and you skip class, you have the feeling, oh, I know that there's somewhere I need to be right now, or there's somewhere I'm supposed to be, but for whatever reason, I'm not going. But that feeling is much weaker with an online class because of that flexibility. In a sense, there is no particular time or date that you should be in class. So because of that, I think that contributes to this feeling of unreality that makes things difficult. And this flexibility, like I said, it's helpful, but it can also be very dangerous because it's very easy to just keep putting off the work until it's too late, right? You cannot continuously put off the work. You have to actually do it sometime, and that flexibility is limited. There are deadlines in an online class, right? As part of this class, you will have a schedule, and there are particular times when you need to complete assignments or quizzes or exams. And if you have not studied the material, then you will be in trouble when it's time to take those quizzes or exams. So remember that flexibility is limited, so be sure to set specific times at which you should complete your coursework. And you should have daily goals, right? You should devote some of each day to working on the class. You don't want to just say one day I'm going to do all the work for this class. That's very difficult to do, right? That's very difficult to do. That's a lot of work to try and do in one day. So it's advisable to set specific times to complete your coursework with daily goals. So you're going to say, you know what? I don't usually work between 1 and 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, so I'm going to set that time as my time to complete this course. Something like that. Now, I do want to stress too, you need to figure in breaks when you're doing this, because it's going to be very difficult to just sit still and listen to me talk or watch a documentary for 2 or 3 hours straight. You can't do that. Typically, people need a break about every 20 minutes or so when they're listening to material. So 20 minutes, take a 5-minute break, go back to it. You also need to be particularly mindful about when you take quizzes and exams. This again is where that limited flexibility can hurt you. So for example, I had a student in my class, an online class, very, very intelligent young lady, but she kept doing badly on the exams. And she came to my office to talk to me about the exams. And she was a little surprised because one of the first things I asked her was, well, I noticed from Blackboard that you're taking the exam on Sunday at 10 p.m. Why are you taking it so late? She's like, well, I want to get a little bit extra time to study, and I got busy and so forth. And I said, well, you know, the problem is then you're taking the exam too late. You're tired. You need to take the exam earlier in the day. And she did that, and instantly her grade went up. Because this was an intelligent person who really was taking the course seriously and was studying. However, because she was so busy, she kept putting off that quiz and that exam because it seemed like, oh yeah, I've got all day to do this. So that she wasn't doing it until she was tired. Now, one thing I have to stress about this, an online class should have about the same amount of contact time as an in-person class. So if there's supposed to be a set number of hours in a in-person class, the online class should have about the same, right? So I actually figure out, I try and stay very close to the idea that, okay, this week there's 2 days of class or there's 3 days of class, that would be this many minutes. So there should be that much time in terms of lectures and documentaries or whatever. So again, I have to stress this is a real class in which you will have to devote real time, about the same time you would to a regular class in terms of this contact time. And you also want to be really realistic about what you can do. For example, sometimes people will take an online course as their third summer course. This is a good way to waste money and get a bad grade and bring down your GPA. Bluntly speaking, I've had that happen numerous times to students in my online classes. So you have to be realistic about what you can do. You're not going to be able to say, hey, I'm going to work 40 hours a week and take this many take like 4 classes or something like that. It'll be fine because it's online. It's not, because as human beings, we only have so much time and so much energy. So you want to be really realistic about what you can do in terms of time. Now, again, it may seem a little bit odd, but I need to talk about the environment in which you are taking your online class. Right, now think about it this way. If you're in an in-person class, usually you're going to have a professor in the classroom. There are going to be certain rules about what people can and can't do in the classroom, and usually these rules are based around the idea that you don't want someone doing something that will distract other people. So for example, students are expected not to talk during a professor's lecture, because talking during a lecture would distract other students and make it difficult for them to do their work. So you want to make sure that your environment is one that will help you to learn rather than distracting you from learning. So it's very important you make sure that you have a quiet place dedicated to study where you can work, right? You want to make sure that you have a nice space. You do not want to try and do this class at work on your cell phone. I have had people try and do that. That's very difficult. You're going to have lots of interruptions. You're going to have lots of distractions. As you're learning, you want to make this as much as possible like you would a regular in-person classroom. You want a nice, quiet environment. Make sure that the people around you know that you're taking an online class and it is a real class, right? You need to make sure that the people around you respect your time and are not being noisy or causing disturbances while you're trying to learn. And this goes doubly when you're taking a quiz or an exam, because those are timed. I had a student who took a quiz with me and didn't answer a large number of the questions, and he ran out of time. And I was surprised because he'd been doing okay. And so I emailed him and asked him to come in so we could talk about it. And it turned out that while he was trying to take the quiz, his mother was asking him to do household chores. So she was continuously interrupting him while he was trying to take the quiz. So you want to make sure, again, that people realize that you're taking a class, that the exams and quizzes are timed, and when you're taking those things, no one is to disturb you. And in addition, you want to turn off all other applications and distractions, right? Don't try and message or text people while you're watching a documentary or a video clip. And I would highly recommend that you keep your cell phone off and put away during this time and not have any messaging applications open, because that will distract you. If for some reason you have to keep those things open, make sure you pause the video before you answer, right? It's just like in a regular class, right? If you're in a regular in-person class and you're checking your phone or other device, you are going to be distracted and not learn. It's the same here. And it's very difficult once you're distracted to kind of get back into things. And that's why I say take a break every 20, 25 minutes or so, right? Take a break after 20 minutes, check your phone then, answer your message then, get back to work for another 20 minutes, do it again. But the key thing is we human beings are really bad at doing 2 things at the same time. So it's better to focus on one and then focus on the other. Of course, technology is very important for an online class. You want to make sure you have a reliable computer on which you can type assignments and notes and watch videos, and that has a reliable connection to the internet. Notice I didn't say phone or iPad. They're not going to work as well, right? They're not going to work as well. And I have had students attempt to complete an online class using a smartphone, and that's very difficult because the screen is just too small and it's very hard to type on one. And I'm not sure how you would type notes while watching videos, right? That's going to be very, very difficult to do. So you want to make sure that you have a reliable computer on which you can type assignments and notes and watch videos, and you absolutely positively have to have a reliable connection to the internet. Right? That's absolutely essential. You cannot take quizzes, exams, or watch videos unless you have that. And if you don't have that, you need to figure out a way to get that, or you need to drop the class, to be blunt. Right? You're not going to do well, and that's just going to cause a lot of problems. Now, one thing I highly recommend if you can do it is to use dual monitors. And what I mean by that is you have a computer that has its monitor, in this case I'm using a laptop, and another monitor. And what you can do then is you can have the video or documentary on one screen, and then you can type your notes on the second screen. Right? It's very easy to do. That is a very efficient way of taking an online class, and I think you'll find that it will, if you don't already have this set up, it will also help you when you're taking other classes. It's very nice to have two large screens on which to work. You may say, well, I don't have a lot of money. This seems nice. Well, one thing I should point out, and this is my setup in my home office, you will note that the larger screen, the monitor, is actually a television. And usually televisions now have an HDMI cable that you can hook up to your laptop, and you can use your television as a monitor. And that is very nice. It's very convenient. And I believe that the monitor / TV I'm using here was only about $80. You can buy them very cheap ones, very inexpensive ones. And while that is an investment, if it helps you get better grades and say get scholarships, or at least complete your degree, that is a good investment. And like I said, it's a TV. You can still use it as a TV when you're not doing your assignments. Sometimes people are a little nervous to try and use dual monitors because it can be a little bit tricky. And if you're not familiar with computers, it can be a little bit difficult to do. So I just want to go briefly through how you would do this. So you would get like whatever cable you need, usually it's an HDMI cable, and hook your computer up to it. And then, and I'm going to explain using Windows 10, you would find the settings button, and you get to that by clicking the little Windows start menu thing, and then you click on the little gear, which that arrow is helpfully pointing to. Once you click on that, it should pull up a menu that looks like this, and you would choose the system. That would bring up then this menu, and you would select display. And if you scroll down, you will see a menu that says multiple displays, and you choose extend these displays. If you choose duplicate these displays, you'll see the same thing on one monitor as you do on the other monitor. But if you say duplicate, what that means is you can have one thing on one monitor, one thing on the other monitor, and if you move your mouse around, right, if you go to the extreme left of one monitor, it will then show up on the other side of the monitor. So it's very, very convenient, very easy to use, and I highly recommend it. I think it's an excellent investment. I know money is often tight for people, but I think this is a good way to do well in an online class and in your other classes as well. And again, like I said, if it helps you to pass classes, to avoid retaking classes, and to maybe get your grades high enough to get scholarships, it pays for itself. One thing you will notice, of course, is that a lot of my videos are like this one, where I have a PowerPoint that I then narrate and the slides go forward. And you may say, well, geez, it would be nice to have a copy of the PowerPoint. Where can I find them? I don't see them on Blackboard. And the answer is I will not be posting them on Blackboard. Now that may seem kind of harsh, but the reason I do that is I have found in the past that because people will sometimes try and take these online classes without giving themselves enough time, instead of watching the videos, they will just attempt to look at the PowerPoints, and then they will generally fail the class. So the idea is that I want to force people to watch the videos, because that's how you can answer the questions. You cannot simply answer the questions and learn the material by just looking at the PowerPoints. You need to also hear the narration, right? And I don't want people to try and think that they can get by just looking at the PowerPoints, but I find that that's what people invariably try and do, so I can try and fix that by just not making the PowerPoints available. And that's the nice thing about a online class, of course, is that you can pause, if you like, the video and copy down what is on the PowerPoint. So that's the way that you can kind of get access to that. And that's one thing you always want to figure into the amount of time you have to take, is the fact that you can pause, write down things, and then resume the video again. So at this point, or somewhere through this video, you may have said to yourself, this sounds like a lot of work. I don't know if I can do this. And that's, in a sense, one of the big points, one of the big purposes of this video is to get people to come to that moment. I cannot count the number of times in my online classes I have had students fail because they simply didn't do anything. They registered for the class, they maybe took 1 or 2 quizzes, and then they stopped doing any work, and then they wouldn't respond to my email saying, hey, is something wrong, and then they just failed the class. And usually when I could get them to talk to me, their response was, well, I had to work, or something like that. And it really makes me sad, because essentially what that student has done is, by working and then failing a class, they have wasted the money they earned from working because they have to pay for the class, and they hurt their GPA because they failed the class. It would have been much better if that person either would have taken the class without working or worked without taking the class, right? They got the worst of both worlds. They lost the money they made and they hurt their GPA. So here's the thing. You want to either do what is needed to do well or else drop the class, right? Either do what is needed to do well or drop the class. Find a different class if you cannot do well in this one based on what you now know about it. I say this not to be to be mean or to be a jerk, but I don't want you to waste your money and hurt your GPA. And in my experience, that is often what happens in online classes. People are trying to do too much at the same time, and then all they do is they hurt themselves. And I don't want to see that.